Hello everyone, welcome back. This is going to be a quick tutorial on getting started with your Wireflow. So I'm going to take you through the steps to get a document created and get it set up so you can start making your Wireflow most efficiently. All right, here we go. If you remember last time, we used a custom sized document and we set it equal to the dimensions of a piece of paper. This time we want our document to be much larger, but we're not sure exactly how large we want it to be. We've got some other sizes here. You can see the iPhone 12 Pro Max is 428 pixels wide, and a full screen HD desktop is 1920 pixels wide. So we want it to be, able to contain multiple iPhone sized objects, and the desktop size is probably not going to be big enough for that. So I'm just going to plug in 2000 pixels wide and a height of 2000 pixels just to get us started. So when I hit enter, it's going to open up and create the new document. And you can see I've got my 2000 pixel square artboard here. I will, as usual, rename it to Eric's Wireflow, and I'm ready to get started. So I do want to create an iPhone sized object. So that's going to be my first step. And I'm just going to use the rectangle tool and drag out a rectangle. You'll notice that the width is 428 pixels, 430 pixels, somewhere in there. And that's going to be where I'm going to start. I am going to just write 428 here. And then for the height, we'll make it just say 900. And then we'll have a roughly iPhone-sized object. Now, I do want it to have a border this time, and we're going to make this a white colored border. And I also want it to have a fill, and we're going to make this a very dark black fill. Here we go. Now I'm going to grab these control points here and round those edges slightly so it looks more like an iPhone. And we'll call this shape phone back. Then I'll lock that in place. I'm going to create another rectangle. This time it's going to sit over the top. And I do want to adjust it a little bit so that it goes almost edge to edge. That's good enough. And I'm going to leave that unrounded. We'll call this the screen. We'll lock that into place. And then using the ellipse tool, I'm going to hold down the shift key and make a circle. Move this upward a little bit and position it slightly in the middle. And we're going to give this a white border, and we'll give the fill something quite dark. There we go. You probably want to change that border from size 1 to size 2, so it's a little bit thicker. And there we go. We'll call this the home button. Then I'm just going to duplicate that object, and holding down the shift key and using the up arrow, I'm going to move that object all the way up to the top. And then I'm going to, clicking this lock icon, lock the aspect ratio into place. And I'm just going to change this to 12 pixels. And you'll see that the height changed to 12 pixels. And this allows me to create a little camera element there. So I'm going to unlock all of these and group them all together. and we'll call this phone back. There we go. And now I can, drag this around and use it again and again. So I'm going to start by duplicating this entire phone, creating another copy of it. And now I'm going to start working on my first screen. So we'll zoom right in on this first screen. And the first thing I want to do is add a label. So we'll create a text element and drag this out. And I'm just going to write home screen up here. And now I've got a label for my screen. And I'm going to start by creating a menu bar. So we'll fill in the menu here. And maybe dark blue. When we're prototyping, or wireframing, we don't really worry about color. That's not, this is not the time to be worried about color. But I do want, to have some darks and lights just so that I can get a sense of whether my elements are how many colors I'm going to need. So we've got our menu bar there, and I'll duplicate this for the footer as well, so we can have some little bit of visual identity. I will create a small menu icon, so we'll just make a little rectangle here and around those edges. Maybe that was a bit too much. Just a little bit. That's good. Maybe change the border to a light color. I want to start keeping track of my colors here. And we'll remove the fill altogether. There we go. And we'll call this the footer. And we'll call this the header. And this will be the menu. There we go. And I'm going to use the line tool to create a line. And we'll put that right inside the menu. I'm going to change the size of that to 2, just so it's a little bit thicker. And we'll use the same color that we used before. I'm going to duplicate it by selecting it and doing Control D. Duplicate that out. And then I'm going to select the second line and duplicate that out as well. So that is Command or Control D. Now I've got my little menu. It's not quite perfect, so I'll just adjust my lines a little bit. Yeah, I think it could use a little bit of adjustment still. I'm just using the arrow keys to tweak the position of these elements. There we go. That's not the greatest menu, but it's good enough for a Wireflow. All right, and then I probably want some type of logo here, but I haven't designed a logo for this company yet. Maybe I'd go to their website and pull down a logo image, or grab some type of SVG. In this case, I'm just going to draw a quick little logo consisting of some shapes. And hopefully that will be a stand-in for a logo. And maybe I will add a little text box and write, company, and that will be the logo for the company, at least for now. Make that condensed black, so maybe so that it's like a more of a standout color. We'll change the fill to something lighter. How about our standard color? And maybe we'll try to make it a bit larger, say 32 pixels in size. There we This is not the greatest header in the world, but considering we don't have a logo, it's not the worst either. Well, I'm just going to group these things together. And we'll call this the logo. And then we'll take these 3 lines together with the menu, and we'll group all those together, and we're just going to call these the menu. There we go. And all of those, the menu and the logo and the header, can all be grouped together into header. There we go. I think the home screen can go to our first. Now those are all together, and we'll call this home screen. And now I've cleaned up my document a little bit, put these down into the home screen, and this will allow us to keep everything grouped together. Now I can move all of those objects as a single unit. Okay, I've started to go a little bit further with my design, but I'm realizing that I don't really want to have a plain white background for my Wireflow. So I'm going to really quickly create a rectangle that's going to sit over all of my document. And I'm going to drag this into the very back layer and remove the border and change this to something a little bit better. And darken it up a little bit. There we go. And now I've got a little bit of a contrast on my design. All right. Once I've got my screens developed, I can start. I'm going to use the select tool here. I can start organizing and grouping my content. Looks like I created something extraneous by accident. So one thing I might do, for instance, once I have duplicated my screens, is to draw some arrows. So using the line tool, I can sketch out a line between these 2 screens. I can change the size to something more visible, like say 6 pixels in width. Change the color to something lighter. And I don't really have a good arrowhead for this. And Adobe XD is a little bit difficult to make arrows, so I'm just going to make a small triangle. Rotate it. And then put it into position at the head of that line. And remove the border and set the fill to be my standard fill color. You can see now I have an arrow. I'm going to group those together, and we'll call that arrow. And then I can use it over and over again if I want to. All right, let's say I wanted to draw a button. I'm going to use the R tool. I'm going to go inside. I'll probably lock my background in place. I'm going to go inside my home screen, and I'm going to use the R tool to draw a nice little button down here. And for my fill, let's choose something in that blue zone. So I don't remember what color I chose for that. So I'm going to use my select tool and grab that footer, and then I'm just going to throw that color down into my swatches. Then when I grab my box here, I can go pick and choose my primary color. I'll round that button out significantly, resize it a little bit, and we'll call this button background. Then I'll add a text layer on top of it. And I'll spell out some text, like this will be the submit button. And we'll use the center alignment to center it. And maybe make it 22 pixels in size. So I need to select that text before I make it 22 pixels in size. And we'll change the weight of the font to medium. All right. Okay, I've got my text. Move it down just by using the down arrow to position it. And I think my button is a little too big, so I'm just going to shrink it a little bit. There we go. Now I will group the text area and the button, and this will be the button group. And now if I need to reuse this element, I can just duplicate it. And oops, I think I'm undoing. I want to duplicate the whole button, so I'll just duplicate it. And for some reason, can't find my submit layer. Oh, there we go. We'll slide that down into the button group. And now when I duplicate the button, the submit text comes along with it. So we'll slide that across the screen using the arrows. You can see now that I've got an easy way to reuse elements. All right, so hopefully this gets you started. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to show you. Once I've got all of my screens developed, you see that my artboard is not going to be big enough. So I will unlock that larger rectangle. I'm going to go back to the artboards area and grab the entire artboard. And I'm just going to grab this bottom control point and drag this out to fill a much larger area. I might need to zoom out a little bit to do that. And I'm going to grab this shareable area and drag that down. And now I can double click, grab that rectangle with my selection tool and size out my rectangle. And so now my artboard is significantly larger and it can hold a lot more screens. If it ends up being too big, I can just dial it back by grabbing the control points and resizing it. All right, I hope this helps you get started building your Wireflow, and look forward to talking to you in our next video.